At a suburban high school, a determined black girl fights to earn her place on the elite cheer squad. She succeeds, but when the football team captain sees her, his face twists with disdain and contempt. The campaign of bullying and exclusion begins. At first, it's mocking words, then it turns to violent shoves. Yet the black girl stands strong and unafraid because she is the daughter of a former U.S. Marine Corps veteran, now a fitness trainer, and her next move will deliver a powerful lesson to those who dared to defy the laws and justice of the United States. Before we continue, I would like to know where in the world you are watching this story from. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on inspiring and impactful stories like this one. The early morning sun beat down on the front steps of Jefferson High School, its red brick facade gleaming beneath a crisp, cloudless Texas sky. The American flag flapped lazily above the main entrance as students spilled from idling pickup trucks and polished SUVs, their chatter and laughter echoing off the tall, familiar walls of the elite suburban school. It was the first day of the new semester, and despite the August heat, the halls buzzed with energy. At the edge of the bustling sidewalk, a black sedan pulled to a smooth stop. The driver's door opened first. Major Marcia Johnson, retired Marine, stepped out with precise, deliberate movements. Her posture was straight. Her khaki polo, tucked neatly into dark jeans, and a thin silver chain, hung just below the neckline, an emblem of her years in service. The back door clicked open next, and from it emerged Amira Johnson, 16 years old, skin the color of polished mahogany, framed by tight braids that hung neatly down her back. She carried herself with the natural strength inherited from her mother, broad shoulders squared beneath a simple navy blue tee, dark leggings hugging athletic legs shaped by years of gymnastics and dance. Her eyes, deep and intelligent, scanned the unfamiliar school grounds with careful calculation. Amira held her breath for a second. The sight before her was both intimidating and unwelcoming. Clusters of blonde-haired girls in designer cheer uniforms laughing in circles, boys in varsity jackets tossing footballs with effortless confidence, and an entire student body that seemed to exist in a polished world apart from her own. "Remember what I told you," Marcia said, her voice low but firm as she adjusted the strap of Amira's backpack. "You walk tall. You earned your place here same as anyone else." Amira met her mother's gaze and gave a small nod. Her heartbeat thrummed in her ears, but her face remained calm. "I got this, Mom," she whispered. Marcia's lips twitched into a proud smile. "Good. Now go show them who you are." As Amira stepped forward toward the school entrance, a group of upperclassmen lounging by the steps fell silent. Their gazes flicked toward her like lasers, curious, appraising, and more than a few with visible disdain. She felt the weight of those looks pressing against her skin, but her steps remained steady. Inside, the cool blast of air conditioning was a small relief. The gleaming floors reflected the buzzing hallway lights. She moved past display cases filled with trophies, most from the football and cheer team's faces on the photos, smiling down in perfect rows of white teeth and golden curls. Not a single face looked like hers. As she opened her locker, her phone buzzed. A message from her mom, "Proud of you already. Remember, head held high." Amira exhaled softly, her fingers tightening around the phone before slipping it into her pocket. Her first class passed without much fanfare. Teachers polite, but distant students barely acknowledging her. But her second stop of the day was what mattered most. She stood outside the gymnasium, the smell of floor polish and rubber mats greeting her as the double doors swung open. Tryouts for the Jefferson High cheer squad. She knew what she was walking into. The squad was the pride of the school year. After year packed with daughters of local businessmen, politicians, and old money families. And now, for the first time in its history, standing before them was a black girl with braids and a Marine's daughter's discipline. She walked across the polished wood floor, clipboard in hand, and joined the other girls already stretching and warming up. 22 in total. 22 white faces that paused mid-conversation to stare at her arrival. Amira forced her shoulders back. Her pulse pounded in her chest, but outwardly she remained calm. One foot in front of the other, graceful, deliberate. From across the gym, a low voice whispered just loud enough to reach her ears. Who let her in? A pair of girls snickered behind cupped hands, glancing sideways. Amira pretended not to hear. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "You don't answer foolishness. You prove them wrong." Coach Brenda Simmons, a middle-aged woman with a weathered face and sharp eyes, clapped her hands to call attention. "Ladies, welcome to final tryouts. You've all worked hard this week. Today we'll determine who makes the team." Amira met the coach's gaze for a moment. There was no warmth there, only the cool professionalism of someone unwilling to reveal their thoughts. "Partner stretches, then formations," Coach Simmons barked. The girls paired off quickly, leaving Amira standing alone for a beat too long before one of the assistant coaches guided her to an empty space. As the tryout began, Amira moved through each motion with precision. Her body responded automatically, arms sharp jumps, crisp landings controlled. Her face masked the roiling sea beneath the tight stares of the other girls, the whispered judgments, the awareness that one misstep would be ammunition for them. During a tumbling sequence, she executed a flawless round-off back handspring landing with toes, pointed arms lifted. A moment of silence, then a scattered clap. At the edge of the gym, a trio of football players had wandered in, leaning casually against the doorframe. Among them stood Logan Miller, Jefferson High's golden boy quarterback, tall, sun-bleached hair, and the arrogant ease of someone used to getting his way. His gaze locked onto Amira, one eyebrow arching, as if amused by her very presence. He leaned toward Tyler Wade, muttering something that drew smirks from both of them. Amira caught it in her peripheral vision. Her stomach twisted, but she refused to glance their way. The tryout wore on. Sweat beaded her brow. Muscles burned, but she pushed through with the stubborn grit her mother had instilled in her. She had faced worse than this. When the final sequence ended, the girls gathered around Coach Simmons, who held a clipboard against her chest. "This year's Jefferson High varsity cheer squad will represent not only our school, but our community," she began. A hush fell over the gym. One by one, names were called. Each girl whooped and hugged her friends as their names echoed through the gym. Then Amira Johnson. The words hit her like an electric shock. For half a second, the world seemed to still. Around her, a ripple of murmurs passed through the circle, some surprised, others outright disapproving. Amira inhaled deeply, masking her surge of pride beneath a calm expression. She nodded once and stepped forward. At the doorway, Logan's jaw tightened. He muttered under his breath, but this time Amira didn't catch it. Her focus remained on the coach on her place, earned not gifted among the team. As the team dispersed, she gathered her things quickly. She had no illusions about what lay ahead. But as she shouldered her bag and headed for the exit, her back straight and chin lifted, her resolve crystallized. She had earned her spot, and no amount of stares or whispered words would take it from her. Because deep down, Amira knew justice didn't always come in grand declarations or sweeping changes. Sometimes it started with one person standing where they belonged, refusing to be moved, and that, she thought, as the gym doors swung closed behind her, was exactly what she intended to do. The following 3 days passed like a blur of sweat-strained muscles and steely focus. Jefferson High's final cheer team tryouts were nothing short of brutal. From sunrise practices to late afternoon drills, the girls were pushed to their limits. Every leap, every chant, every dance routine was scrutinized. Amira Johnson knew exactly what was at stake. Each morning she arrived at the gym 30 minutes early, headphones in, stretching in the corner, while the other girls filtered in with their designer duffels and Starbucks cups. Their eyes still lingered on her, some curious, some openly disapproving. But by now, the whispers had dulled. No one could deny her skill. When the music started, Amira moved like she belonged on that floor. Crisp arm angles high and controlled jumps landings sharp enough to snap heads. Years of gymnastics combined with her mother's relentless training were serving her well. But it was not just about the moves. She smiled through the discomfort, held her ground when the other girls tried to crowd her during formations, and stood tall every time Coach Simmons barked corrections. By the third day, even the most skeptical faces began to show something new unease. The final routine came late Friday afternoon. Parents and a few select faculty members were allowed to watch the last run. The gym was warmer than usual, the scent of fresh wax and sweat heavy in the air. Amira stood third row center as the routine began. She counted each beat in her head, heart hammering but steady. As the team launched into the tumbling pass, Amira hit her mark, a powerful round-off back handspring back tuck. The moment her feet landed firmly, she caught Coach Simmons' eye. A small nod. Approval. The rest of the routine blurred into muscle memory. By the final formation, Amira stood locked in position, smile wide, shoulders squared. When the music ended, the applause was polite but scattered. Coach Simmons stepped forward with her clipboard. "Excellent work, ladies," she began. "You've given everything this week. I am proud of each and every one of you." She paused, letting the tension build. The entire gym seemed to hold its breath. This year's Jefferson High varsity cheer squad will represent not only this school, but this community. She continued. "The following girls will be joining the team." Names echoed through the gym, one after another. Amira kept her gaze forward, breathing slow and deep. Amira Johnson, for a heartbeat silence, then a few hesitant claps. One or two more joined in, scattered and unenthusiastic. Amira's chest tightened. She forced a calm smile, stepping forward. Coach Simmons barely looked up from her clipboard. In the corner of the gym, a small group stood watching. Logan Miller, team captain of the Jefferson High Eagles, leaned against the doorframe with arms crossed. His father, Principal Miller, stood not far behind, deep in quiet conversation with one of the Booster Club parents. Beside Logan were Tyler Wade, linebacker, and Logan's right-hand man, and Ethan Ford, their constant shadow. As Amira's name rang out, Logan's jaw clenched. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered under his breath. "She made the team," Tyler said, voice low, but edged with disgust. "Guess we're letting anyone in these days," Ethan added, snickering. Logan's gaze locked on Amira, narrowing. In his mind, the Jefferson High cheer squad had always been one thing, a pristine reflection of the school's legacy. Blonde, smiling, the daughters of old Texas money. Now, with one name, one face, that image was tainted. To him, Amira wasn't a talented athlete. She was a disruption. As the team huddled for a brief meeting post-announcement, Amira felt the weight of the room shift. The congratulations were forced. A girl named Lindsay, one of the returning seniors, offered a stiff congrats, avoiding eye contact. Another muttered, "Hope you can keep up just loud enough for Amira to hear." Amira kept her smile in place. Her heart pounded not with nerves, but with a familiar, simmering fire. She had seen this before. The polite faces masking resentment, the subtle digs. But her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Hold your head high. You've earned this." Across the gym, Logan pushed off the wall, eyes never leaving her. "She's a stain on that uniform," he said coldly. Tyler nodded. "Principal won't like this either. Your dad can't be happy." Logan smirked. "Oh, we'll see about that. Football season's coming. Plenty of ways to remind everyone who runs this school." As the crowd thinned and the girls began gathering their things, Amira slung her duffel over her shoulder. She could feel the stairs burning into her back. Outside the gym, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. Logan and his crew lingered by Logan's black pickup truck, watching her approach. Without a word, Amira kept walking, spine straight, chin high. Logan called out, voice casual, but sharp enough to carry. "Welcome to Jefferson High, Cheer Johnson. Hope you can handle the heat." Amira stopped just long enough to glance over her shoulder. "I can handle anything," she said calmly, then kept walking. Her heart thudded hard against her ribs, but her steps remained steady. She knew what was coming, but she had faced tougher battles, because at the end of the day, all she wanted was what every student should have: a fair shot, a chance to be recognized for her talent and hard work, not the color of her skin. And that, more than anything, was worth standing tall for. The first morning back at Jefferson High after making the cheer team should have felt like a victory. Amira Johnson had told herself that all weekend. She stood in front of the mirror that morning, braiding her hair tighter than usual, smoothing her edges with practiced fingers. Her new cheer uniform hung neatly on the back of her closet door, a visual reminder of what she had earned. Head high, shoulders back. Her mother's words echoed softly in her mind. By the time her mother dropped her off outside the front entrance, Amira's heart was racing. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady herself, then stepped onto the sidewalk. Students milled about the entrance as always, but the moment Amira entered the main hallway, a subtle shift in the air greeted her. Conversations dulled. Eyes followed her with a new, sharper edge. She gripped her backpack strap a little tighter. Her locker sat midway down the west hall. As she approached, her stomach dropped. The door to her locker hung wide open. Her books and binders lay scattered across the polished floor, some pages torn, others smeared with dirt. A ripped piece of notebook paper had been taped hastily to the inside of the locker door. "Go back to where you belong." For a long moment, Amira just stared. Her chest burned, breath shallow. The familiar hallway now felt cold and foreign. Around her, a few students lingered, watching with thinly veiled curiosity. None offered to help. A pair of sophomore girls walked past one, whispering just loud enough to be heard. "Did you hear that black girl ruined the squad?" Her friend snickered. "Yeah, total joke." Amira knelt slowly, gathering her books with trembling hands. She could feel her pulse in her ears. Tears threatened, but she blinked them away, jaw clenched tight. Her mother had warned her this might happen. The fight would not be fair. But this was personal. A soft voice interrupted her spiral. "Hey, do you need help?" Amira looked up to see Madison Green, one of the more neutral girls on the cheer team, crouched beside her. "I'm fine," Amira said quietly, forcing her voice steady. Madison hesitated, then picked up a stray folder and handed it over. "I don't know who did this," she said, "but it's not okay." Amira met her gaze, searching for sincerity. Madison's expression seemed genuine, her blue eyes full of something close to guilt. "Thanks," Amira said, voice clipped. With her arms full, she shut the locker firmly and walked away, spine stiff. She kept her head up, but each step felt heavier than the last. By second period, the whispers had grown louder. "Guess they'll let anyone on the team now. Why'd they even bother with tryouts, affirmative action cheerleading?" The words floated through the air like smoke, impossible to swat away. In chemistry class, Amira sat near the window, hoping to focus on her notes. Her phone buzzed quietly in her backpack. At first, she ignored it, but the second buzz pulled her attention. When she checked the screen, her breath caught. A text from an unknown number. "Nobody wants you here." Her fingers tightened around the phone. Another message followed moments later. "Better quit now before it gets worse." Her throat tightened. She looked around the classroom. No one appeared suspicious, yet several students sat with phones half hidden beneath their desks, typing with smirks tugging at their lips. Amira shoved her phone back into her backpack. Her hands shook. The rest of the lesson blurred. At lunch, she debated sitting with the Honor Society girls like usual, but the thought of more stares made her stomach twist. Instead, she found a quiet corner of the library and ate alone. Her mind swirled. Should she tell someone, the principal, her mom? But part of her hesitated. If she complained, would it just give them more reason to call her weak? More reason to say she didn't belong? Amira closed her eyes, pressing her palms flat against the table. She remembered her mother's face that morning, full of pride. "Hold your head high." She would not quit, no matter how many locker pranks, no matter how many hateful texts or whispered slurs. But that afternoon, as she walked to seventh period, the words she heard froze her in place. Two boys stood at their lockers ahead, unaware she was within earshot. One of them, she recognized him from the football team, laughed softly. "That black girl ruined the squad, man." His friend snorted. "Yeah, coach is gonna regret putting her on. Just wait." Amira's stomach churned. Her chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. She forced her feet to move, passing them with a steady stride. Neither looked her way as she passed, but their words had already done the damage. By the final bell, exhaustion pressed down on her like a weight. She made her way back to her locker cautiously this time. Nothing seemed out of place. Still, as she gathered her things, the lingering sense of violation clung to her skin. Her phone buzzed again just before she left the building. Another anonymous text. "Quit. You don't belong here." Amira exhaled shakily. She typed a reply, fingers trembling. "I'm not going anywhere." She hit send and locked the phone. Outside, the late afternoon sun painted the school in gold and shadow. She spotted Logan Miller leaning against his truck in the lot, flanked by Tyler Wade and Ethan Ford. Logan caught her eye, a slow smile spreading across his face, one of triumph, not friendliness. He said nothing, did not need to. Amira turned away, fists clenched at her sides. She could feel the heat of shame, the sting of injustice, and beneath it all, a slow building fire. She would not be chased out. Not now. Not ever. And deep down, she knew one truth: no one had the right to break her spirit because of her skin. And if they thought they could, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. The next week, the cheer practices grew harder to face than any classroom or hallway. Amira Johnson had thought making the team was the hard part. She had thought the locker prank, the whispers, and the hateful messages were the worst of it. But what awaited her on the gym floor tested her resolve in ways she had not imagined. Practice was called for 5 o'clock sharp after school. When Amira entered the gym that afternoon, the polished floor gleamed under the harsh lights. The speakers played a steady beat as Coach Simmons stood clipboard in hand. The other girls were already stretching in clusters. Amira dropped her bag by the bleachers and moved to her usual corner. She felt the eyes before she even looked up. Brittany Hale, a senior and longtime squad member, stood near the center of the floor, surrounded by her usual clique. Her blonde ponytail swung high and tight, her perfectly painted nails drumming against her water bottle. Brittany caught Amira's glance and smiled a slow, calculated smile. As the team formed lines to begin warm-ups, Brittany made sure she was directly in front of Amira. Coach Simmons called out counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. As they moved through kicks and turns, Brittany began shifting subtly backward. The first bump was light, an elbow grazing Amira's shoulder during a turn. Amira swallowed the rising frustration and reset her stance. The second bump came minutes later, this time Brittany's hip brushing Amira's side hard enough to force her off balance. Coach Simmons glanced their way, but said nothing. Amira's straightened jaw clenched. Her heart pounded not from exertion, but from simmering anger. The routine shifted to floor work. As the girls prepared for a synchronized tumble pass, Brittany stepped just wide enough to cut into Amira's space. The moment Amira launched her round-off, Brittany's leg jutted subtly across her landing path. Amira's foot caught her ankle twisting. She stumbled forward, landing awkwardly on her knees. Laughter rippled through a few of the girls. Amira's cheeks burned hot. She pushed herself up quickly, refusing to meet their eyes. From the bleachers, someone's phone camera caught it all. Coach Simmons blew her whistle. "Johnson, you all right?" Amira forced a nod. "I'm fine. Stay sharp," the coach warned, already turning back to the group. Brittany glanced over her shoulder, smirked, and tossed her hair. By the time practice ended, Amira's body ached, not from the drills, but from holding herself back. As she gathered her bag, Madison Green approached hesitantly. "I saw what Brittany did," Madison said softly. "That wasn't an accident." Amira gave a small, bitter smile. "I know. You should tell Coach." "She saw it," Amira replied, voice tight. She chose to look away. Madison looked uncomfortable. "If you need someone to back you up, I will." Amira met her gaze, grateful but wary. "Thanks. I'll think about it." By the time she got home, her ankle throbbed faintly. She iced it as she sat at the kitchen table trying to focus on homework. Her phone buzzed beside her, a notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged her in a post. Amira's stomach dropped. When she opened the app, her breath caught. A short video clip her stumble during practice played on a loop. The caption read, "Diversity hire, can't even dance." Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the comments. Some were thinly veiled insults, others outright cruel. "Looks like the squad's going downhill this year. Can't even land a basic pass. LOL. We know why she got picked." Amira's vision blurred for a moment. The familiar tightness rose in her throat. Anger, shame, and something deeper, more cutting. She blinked rapidly, forcing herself to breathe. Her mother's voice echoed faintly, "Hold your head high." But tonight, that felt almost impossible. She wanted to scream, to tear the phone in two. Instead, she took a screenshot of the post and set the phone face down. Dinner was a quiet affair. Her mother noticed the stiffness in her shoulders. "You're not eating," Marcia said gently. Amira hesitated. "They're posting videos of me," she said finally, "calling me a diversity hire." Marcia's jaw tightened. "Who, Brittany? Maybe others. I can't prove it." Marcia exhaled slowly, her eyes hardening. "You listened to me, Amira. You did not earn your place through charity. You worked twice as hard to get here, and you earned it." Amira swallowed hard. "I know, but it doesn't feel like it right now." Marcia reached across the table, her hand firm over Amira's. "They want you to break. That is their goal. You will not give them the satisfaction." Amira nodded, though her chest still ached. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the video replayed in her mind. She imagined the laughter, the whispers at school the next day. Part of her wanted to hide, but a deeper part, fueled by her mother's words and her own pride, refused to yield. If they wanted her gone, they would have to try a lot harder, because no one had the right to tear her down because of her skin. And tomorrow, she would walk into that gym and prove it. That night, Amira sat at the kitchen table long after her mother had cleared the dishes. The house was quiet, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock on the wall. Her phone lay face down in front of her, the hateful video and comments still fresh in her mind. Her stomach churned with a mix of shame, anger, and something sharper resolve. Across the room, Marcia Johnson watched her daughter with knowing eyes. The Marine in her recognized the posture, tense shoulders, clenched jaw, hands curled tightly in her lap. "Talk to me," Marcia said gently. Amira swallowed hard. For a moment, her voice caught in her throat. "They're trying to break me, Mom," she said, finally, her voice low but steady. "At practice today, Brittany kept bumping me on purpose. I stumbled once, and now there's a video of it online. They're calling me a diversity hire, laughing at me." Marcia's expression darkened. She moved to the table and sat across from her daughter, leaning forward with elbows braced on the wood. "Did Coach Simmons say anything?" Amira shook her head. She saw it. She looked away. "And your teammates Madison offered to help, but she's the only one." For a long moment, they sat in silence. Amira stared at the table, blinking hard to keep the tears at bay. Her throat burned. Marcia reached across the table, her voice firm now. "Amira, listen to me carefully. There are times when the system protects you, when rules and authority do what they are supposed to do, but there are other times like this, when the system fails, when the people who should speak up stay silent. And when that happens, you have to create your own justice." Amira looked up slowly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I don't want to fight dirty," she whispered. Marcia's voice softened, but her gaze remained unflinching. "I'm not telling you to fight dirty. I'm telling you to fight smart, to protect yourself, to be prepared, because if they are willing to humiliate you like this in public, they will do worse in private if they think they can get away with it." Amira's hands curled into fists. Her heart pounded against her ribs. "I won't let them win," she said, voice gaining strength. "I won't quit." Marcia nodded once. "Good. Then it's time we get to work." She rose from the table, motioning for Amira to follow. Together they moved to the converted garage at the back of the house, what Marcia called her training space. The room smelled faintly of rubber mats and metal. A punching bag hung in the corner. Sturdy mats covered the floor. Marcia turned to her daughter, her voice calm but commanding. "First, we start with awareness. Most fights are lost before the first punch is thrown because someone wasn't paying attention. You need to know your surroundings, who's watching, who's moving toward you, where your exits are." She paced slowly, eyes scanning the room. "Every time you walk into a space, you do the same. School hallways, locker rooms, the gym. You scan. You know where to go if something happens." Amira nodded, absorbing each word. Marcia moved to the center of the room and motioned for Amira to join her. "Next, control your emotions. They will try to provoke you, push your buttons, get you to react so they can play the victim. You do not give them that power." She met Amira's gaze. "You breathe, deep and slow. You answer calmly, or you don't answer at all, but you never lose control." Amira took a breath now, slow and deliberate. Her heartbeat began to steady. Marcia smiled slightly. "Good. Now we talk about physical defense." She stepped forward, demonstrating a basic stance. If someone grabs you, you do not pull away. You move in, disrupt their balance, break the hold, create space. She showed a series of simple movements: how to twist free from a wrist grab, how to pivot away from a shove, how to plan a strike if absolutely necessary. "Remember," Marcia said, voice low, "this is last resort. You do not start fights. You end them." Amira practiced each move, her body moving with growing confidence. Sweat beaded her brow, but her mind sharpened with every repetition. "You're learning fast," Marcia said after an hour, "but this is only the beginning." She handed Amira a small notebook. "From now on, you document everything, every text, every comment, every incident, date, time, location, who is there. If the school won't protect you, we build our own case." Amira accepted the notebook, fingers tight around the edges. For the first time all day, she felt something new, a flicker of power, of control. Her mother stood before her, eyes filled with fierce pride. "You are strong, Amira, stronger than they know. And you are not alone in this." Amira's voice was steady now. "I'm ready." Marcia nodded. "Good, because we fight with our minds first, with discipline, with truth. Let them throw all the hate they want. You will stand through it." As they closed the garage door for the night, Amira felt the weight in her chest lighten just a little. Her heart still ached from the day's humiliation, but beneath the pain, a fire had been lit. She would not be their victim. She would be their reckoning. And tomorrow she would walk into Jefferson High, not with fear, but with her head held high, and her mother's lessons burning bright within her. The following week, Amira walked through the halls of Jefferson High with a new mindset. The lessons with her mother had shifted something inside her. She had been spending her nights training and writing detailed notes in the small notebook Marcia had given her. Every glare, every bump in practice, every anonymous text, she recorded it all. But the more she documented, the more she understood one thing clearly: Logan Miller was the ringleader. Brittany's stunts, the whispered rumors, the online posts, it all traced back to him. And as her mother had taught her, if you want to stop a problem, you start at the source. Amira began observing, quietly, carefully. She made it a point to notice where Logan went, who he talked to, and what his habits were. It did not take long to uncover one glaring flaw. Logan had a routine. Thursday nights were party nights for the senior athletes. The boosters and local businesses often sponsored these gatherings under the radar, providing access to places where underage drinking flowed freely. Friday mornings, Logan would show up late to school, reeking faintly of alcohol, his eyes bloodshot. But it was something else that caught Amira's attention. More than once, she noticed him driving his black pickup through the school parking lot. After one of these parties, loud music, blaring windows, down the sharp scent of alcohol lingering in the air. One careless mistake after another. At first, Amira hesitated, part of her worried about retaliation. Another part questioned whether it was fair to expose him this way. But each time she remembered the bruises from practice, the anonymous messages, the humiliation of that video, those doubts faded. Logan had chosen this path. Now it was time he faced consequences. That Thursday night, she made her plan. After dinner, Amira slipped out with her phone and a portable charger. Her mother knew about her intent, and though she had concerns, she trusted her daughter's judgment. Marcia's parting words had been simple: be smart, be safe. And remember, evidence is your greatest weapon. By 9 o'clock, Amira was positioned at a discreet spot overlooking the senior parking lot, partially hidden behind a row of tall hedges. Her heart pounded steadily, but her breathing remained calm. She watched as the lot slowly filled. Cars arrived in small groups, laughter and loud music drifting through the night air. By 10:30, Logan's black pickup roared into the lot. Amira tensed, holding her phone ready. She watched carefully as Logan and Tyler emerged from the truck, both laughing, swaying slightly as they walked toward a nearby building. The distinct clink of bottles echoed faintly. Amira pressed record. She captured every detail: Logan stumbling, slurring his words, reaching back into his truck for another drink before tossing the empty bottle into the bed. She waited. Nearly an hour later, Logan and his friends returned. Tyler rode off with another player, leaving Logan alone. Amira's pulse quickened. Logan climbed into his truck engine, roaring to life. The truck swerved slightly as he backed out, tires squealing. Amira kept recording. Her phone captured the truck weaving through the lot, Logan's face illuminated in the glow of the dashboard, eyes glazed, movements sluggish. Once he drove off toward the main road, Amira stopped recording, her fingers trembling slightly as she saved the video. She sat in the shadows for a few minutes, heart racing. But beneath the adrenaline was something deeper, a fierce satisfaction. She had what she needed. By midnight, back home in her room, Amira reviewed the footage carefully. It was undeniable. Driving under the influence. On school grounds, she created a new email address ensuring anonymity. Then she attached the video with a short message: underage drinking and DUI by Jefferson High student on school property. Video evidence attached. Concerned citizen. She sent it to the school resource officer's official account and to the local police tip line. Then she powered off her phone and sat back, exhaling long and slow. The next morning, the school buzzed with unusual energy. Amira noticed the shift as soon as she walked through the front doors. Students huddled in small groups, whispering. Teachers looked tense. By second period, the news broke. Logan Miller had been stopped by police just outside the school that morning. An anonymous tip had led them to review security footage and monitor his arrival. When Logan's truck entered the lot, officers approached. The smell of alcohol was obvious. A quick field sobriety test confirmed their suspicions. He was arrested on the spot for DUI. Word spread like wildfire. Amira kept her expression neutral as she listened to snippets of conversation. He got busted. Yeah. Cops had video proof or something. His scholarship's done for. By lunch, the full impact had become clear. Logan's father, Principal Miller, was seen leaving the main office, looking pale and furious. Logan's name was immediately removed from the upcoming football showcase. College scouts were notified. The senior quarterback's future, once golden, was now hanging by a thread. As Amira sat at her usual table in the library, Madison slid into the seat across from her. "Did you hear?" Madison whispered. Amira looked up calmly. "I heard." Madison's eyes searched hers, curiosity flickering. "People are saying someone tipped off the police with a video." Amira simply shrugged, her voice even. "Maybe someone got tired of watching him get away with everything." Madison gave a slow nod. "Whoever it was, good for them." For the rest of the day, Amira moved through the halls with a quiet sense of satisfaction. She knew this was just one step. The fight was far from over, but for the first time the scales had tipped. The ringleader had stumbled, and deep down, Amira felt justice had begun to turn in her favor. Because no matter who you were, no matter how powerful your family, or how long you had ruled the school, when you broke the rules, you deserved to pay the price. And now, Logan Miller was learning that lesson firsthand. Word of Logan's arrest spread fast, but the consequences hit him even faster. By the following Monday, Logan returned to Jefferson High stripped of his starting quarterback role and with his college offers hanging by a thread. His swagger was gone, replaced with a cold fury that seemed to radiate off him as he stalked the halls. Amira noticed it the moment she walked into school that morning. The usual smirks from Logan's crew were gone, replaced by sharp glares and clenched jaws. Tyler Wade, in particular, looked like a caged animal pacing outside the gym. Ethan Ford hovered nearby, eyes darting nervously. Amira kept her head high, her steps steady, but she felt the weight of their hatred follow her with every move. By third period, it was clear something had changed. Students whispered in small groups, glancing at Amira more openly now. A few gave her encouraging nods, but most looked wary, as if waiting for the next blow to land. During lunch, Madison slid into the seat beside Amira, voice low. "They're pissed. Logan is blaming you for everything. Word is Tyler's planning something." Amira's pulse quickened. She forced her face to remain calm. Like what Madison hesitated. "I don't know, but I heard Brittany say they're going to put you in your place." Whatever that means. Amira swallowed hard. Her mind raced through her mother's training. Stay aware, stay calm, document everything. She nodded slowly. "Thanks for telling me." That evening, over dinner, Amira shared everything with her mother. Marcia's jaw tightened with each word. It was only a matter of time, Marcia said. "You've rattled them. Now they'll get sloppy." She leaned forward, voice firm. "Starting tomorrow, you carry your phone on you at all times. Voice recorder ready. Eyes open, ears sharper. They will try to bait you. Do not give them that chance." Amira nodded. The fire in her chest burned stronger now. "I'm ready." The next day unfolded like a storm waiting to break. During sixth period, Amira's heart skipped when she overheard Brittany whispering to another cheerleader near the lockers. Tyler's got it all set. After seventh period, girls' bathroom by the east stairwell. No cameras. She won't see it coming. Amira's breath caught, but she kept moving, fingers trembling as she reached into her pocket and started the voice recorder app on her phone. She drifted closer, pretending to organize her locker. Brittany continued, voice smug. "Tyler's going to make sure she gets a little reminder. She wants to act tough. Let's see how she handles being cornered." The other girl laughed nervously. "What if someone finds out?" "They won't." Logan said, "Principal Miller will cover for us. No one will care what happens to her." Amira's stomach twisted, but she kept her breathing even. She captured every word, every detail. When the conversation ended, she slipped away to an empty stairwell, heart pounding. She sent the audio file immediately to her mother. A minute later, her phone buzzed. Marcia's voice was sharp, but calm. "Get to the main office. Now. Tell them you're feeling sick and want to go home. I'll handle the rest." Amira didn't argue. By the time seventh period ended, she was already in her mother's car door, locked, adrenaline coursing through her veins. At home, Marcia wasted no time. She forwarded the recording to her attorney and the school resource officer along with a detailed statement from Amira. By that evening, the fallout had begun. An emergency meeting was called at the school. Word spread quickly that the administration was under fire. The recording had made its way up the chain, and even Principal Miller couldn't shield his son's friends now. The next morning, the tension in the air was electric. Students buzzed with the news Tyler had been pulled from class for questioning. Brittany was nowhere to be seen. Amira walked the halls with her head high, her mother's words ringing in her ears. "You fight smart. You fight with truth." By third period, the principal made an announcement over the loudspeaker. Effective immediately, Tyler Wade and Brittany Hale have been suspended pending further investigation of a disciplinary matter. This school does not tolerate harassment or threats of violence against any student. The halls erupted in whispers. Madison found Amira at her locker, eyes wide. "You did it," she whispered. "They're out." Amira allowed herself a small smile. They did it to themselves. For the rest of the day, Amira felt lighter. The fear that had gripped her chest was gone, replaced with something stronger: control. Justice was not always loud. Sometimes it came in quiet, deliberate steps. And as she moved through the halls, she knew one thing for certain. She was not done fighting. And the next time they came for her, she would be ready. It had been a long week, but tonight, for the first time in days, Amira let herself breathe. Tyler and Brittany were suspended. Logan's image was shattered. The hateful whispers at school had dulled to a low murmur. Marcia had warned her not to let her guard down, but it was a clear Friday night, and Amira wanted the walk home. She needed it, a chance to clear her head, to feel the cool air against her skin without the weight of eyes on her. Practice had ended late. Madison had offered her a ride, but Amira politely declined. She wanted space, wanted to feel strong again on her own 2 feet. So she took the familiar path through the neighborhood, earbuds in her pocket, alert and steady. The stars blinked above. Porch lights flickered warmly along the streets. She was 3 blocks from home when the hair on the back of her neck prickled. A low rumble of an engine. The sound came from behind, then cut suddenly. Amira slowed pulse quickening. A voice rang out sharp and cold. "Well, look who we got here." She turned slowly. Logan leaned against the side of a dark SUV parked half on the curb. Tyler stood to his right, arms crossed, face twisted with fury. Ethan lingered nearby, eyes wide and nervous. Amira's breath caught, but her training took hold. She scanned the scene, noting the distance to the nearest house, 30 yards. No one in sight, no porch lights nearby. Stay calm, stay aware. Logan straightened, taking a slow step forward. His face was pale beneath the parking lot lights, jaw tight, eyes burning with hate. "You think you're real smart, don't you?" he sneered. Amira stood, her ground voice steady. "I think you should walk away." Tyler laughed, bitter and sharp. "No one's here to protect you now." Ethan shifted nervously, voice low. "Maybe we should just leave, man." Logan shot him a glare. "Shut up." He reached into his jacket. Amira tensed, heart hammering. When his hand came out, it held a knife. Small, serrated blade glinting under the street lamp. Amira's breath slowed. "Focus." "Last chance," Logan said, voice low. "You're gonna pay for what you did." Without thinking, Amira took a subtle half-step back, weight-centered muscles loose and ready. Her mother's voice rang in her mind. "Control the blade. Disable the hand. Stay moving." Logan lunged. The world narrowed to that one moment. Amira sidestepped fast, grabbing Logan's wrist with both hands, twisting hard. His eyes widened with shock. She drove her knee into his ribs, knocking the air from his lungs. The knife clattered to the pavement. Tyler cursed and charged. Amira pivoted, ducking low. As he reached for her, she trapped his arm, turned sharply, and sent him sprawling with a hip throw. He hit the ground hard, groaning. Ethan froze, panic flooding his face. Amira locked eyes with him. "Don't," she said firmly. He hesitated, then took a stumbling step back. Logan staggered upright, gasping, eyes wild. "You little—" He lunged again, fist swinging. Amira blocked the first blow, sidestepped the second, and slammed the heel of her palm into his chin. Logan dropped like a stone. Tyler tried to rise, but Amira planted a foot beside him, voice sharp. "Stay down." The sound of a distant siren split the air. Headlights flared around the corner. Someone had called the police. Amira backed away, slowly breathing hard but steady. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt. Officers spilled out weapons drawn, barking commands. "Hands where we can see them." Amira raised her hands immediately, voice clear. "They attacked me." He had a knife. One officer moved to cuff Logan now, groaning on the ground. Another secured Tyler, who was too winded to resist. Ethan stood, frozen hands shaking. "Over here," an officer called to Amira. "Are you hurt?" "I'm okay," she said, voice trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. An officer retrieved the knife, securing it in an evidence bag. Neighbors had gathered at the edges of their yards, murmuring in shock. Within minutes, the scene was controlled. Logan, Tyler, and Ethan were loaded into separate patrol cars. Amira stood beneath the flashing lights, chest heaving. She heard a familiar voice and turned. Marcia rushed to her face, pale, but eyes fierce. "Are you okay?" Amira nodded, swallowing hard. "I remembered everything you taught me." Marcia pulled, her close voice thick. "You did exactly right. I'm so proud of you." As the officers took statements, one of them approached Marcia. "We have enough here for multiple charges: assault with a deadly weapon, attempted assault. And we got witness calls from the neighbors. Your daughter defended herself well." Marcia's grip tightened around Amira's shoulders. She's been preparing for this. Amira exhaled slowly, the night's events settling in. She had faced them down, on her own, and this time there was no twisting the story. No hiding behind school walls or privilege, because justice, real justice, had arrived under the flashing blue lights. And Amira knew deep in her core that this fight was far from over. But tonight she had won, and the darkness that had tried to break her had failed. The courtroom was packed. It had been 3 months since that night. 3 months of statements, depositions, and public outcry. The attack on Amira had made local news within hours, and by the following week, it was on every major outlet across the state. A black girl defending herself against 3 white attackers, one of them the privileged son of the principal. The story was too powerful to ignore. Now, here they were. Logan Miller sat at the defense table, his once confident posture now slouched. The sharp suits his father had provided could not hide the gaunt look on his face or the anger that still burned behind his eyes. Tyler Wade sat beside him, fists clenched on the table, jaw tight. Ethan Ford looked the smallest of the 3, his body-tense gaze lowered as if trying to shrink from the world. Across the aisle, Amira sat between her mother and their attorney. Marcia kept a steady hand on her daughter's shoulder. Amira's heart beat fast, but steady, her face calm. She had testified already, recounting the events of that night with a clarity that left no room for doubt. The video evidence witness statements from neighbors and the audio recording of Tyler and Brittany's earlier plan had painted a damning picture. The prosecution had argued that the attack was not just an act of violence, but a coordinated hate crime driven by a pattern of harassment and racist intent. Now the judge was ready to deliver the verdict. The room stilled as Judge Alvarez, a seasoned woman with sharp eyes and a voice of steel, addressed the court. This court has carefully reviewed all evidence presented, she began. The attack on Miss Amira Johnson was not random. It was the culmination of a deliberate campaign of harassment, intimidation, and physical violence. She paused, gaze sweeping the defendants. Further, it is clear that the attack was motivated at least in part by racial animus. A low murmur rippled through the gallery. Judge Alvarez continued, "This court therefore finds that the actions of the defendants constitute a hate crime under state law." Amira's breath caught. Her mother's grip tightened briefly in reassurance. Logan Miller, the judge, continued, "For your role as the leader of this attack, for bringing a weapon to the scene, and for your history of harassment, you are hereby sentenced to 5 years in state prison." Logan's face drained of color. He looked to his father, who sat pale and defeated in the gallery, unable to meet his son's gaze. Tyler Wade, Judge Alvarez, said next, "For your active participation in planning and executing this attack, and your prior acts of harassment, you are sentenced to 3 years in state prison." Tyler's jaw tensed further, but his bravado had long since faded. "Ethan Ford." The judge's voice softened slightly. "While your role was lesser, you were complicit. However, your cooperation with investigators and expression of genuine remorse are noted. You are sentenced to 1 year in county detention." Ethan's shoulders sagged. His mother began to cry quietly in the back row. Judge Alvarez's gaze swept the courtroom once more. This court hopes that this verdict sends a clear message. Hate, intimidation, and violence will not be tolerated in this community. She turned to Amira. "And to you, Miss Johnson, you have demonstrated courage and dignity in the face of cruelty. This court commends your strength." Amira's throat tightened, but she managed a nod. The gavel fell. The room erupted in a low wave of voices as officers moved to escort the defendants from the courtroom. Amira watched as Logan was led away in cuffs, his eyes burning with resentment. Tyler followed, face pale. Ethan glanced once toward Amira, lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. He dropped his gaze and was led away. For a long moment, Amira sat still, her heart racing. Then Marcia leaned close. "You did it, baby." Amira exhaled slowly. "No," she said softly. "We did." Outside the courthouse, a crowd of reporters and community members waited. As Amira and Marcia emerged, applause broke out among the supporters. A local news reporter stepped forward. "Miss Johnson, how do you feel about today's verdict?" Amira met the cameras with calm resolve. "I feel like justice was served," she said simply. "No one should have to go through what I did. But if my story helps stop this from happening to someone else, then it was worth the fight." The following weeks brought more change than anyone had expected. The school board convened an emergency session. The community's outrage forced them to act. New anti-discrimination policies were implemented district-wide. A mandatory diversity and inclusion program was introduced for all students and staff. Principal Miller resigned quietly under public pressure. In a move that shocked many, Jefferson High invited Amira to speak at a special assembly launching the new initiatives. At first, Amira hesitated. The thought of standing in front of those students, some of whom had cheered her attackers, made her stomach turn. But after talking it over with her mother, she agreed. "It's your chance to make sure they hear the truth," Marcia told her. So on a bright spring morning, Amira stood at the podium in the newly remodeled gym. The stands were full. Students, teachers, administrators, even community members had come to witness the moment. Amira scanned the crowd. She spotted Madison in the front row, giving her a small nod of encouragement. Taking a deep breath, Amira began. "Most of you know who I am," she said. Her voice was clear, steady. "And most of you know what happened to me." A ripple of uncomfortable silence followed. What happened was not just about me. It was about hate, about people thinking they could decide who belongs and who doesn't. And it was about a system that let it happen for far too long. She paused, letting her words sink in. But it's also about something else, about standing up, about not letting fear and hatred win, about believing that justice is worth fighting for. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Amira's gaze sharpened. And now, this school has a choice. You can be better. You can be the kind of place where everyone is safe, where everyone belongs, no matter their race, their background, or who they are. She took one last breath. "I hope you choose that path, because I will be watching, and so will the world." Applause rose around the gym, loud and sustained. As Amira stepped down from the podium, her heart swelled with something she had not felt in a long time: pride. Real pride. Justice had been done. And now there was a chance for real change. As she walked off the stage, Marcia met her with a hug. "You spoke truth, Amira. That's the strongest weapon of all." Amira smiled, her voice quiet but full of certainty. "And I'm just getting started." The story of Amira became a lesson that no one at Jefferson High would ever forget. It reminded everyone that while we may not always control the way others see us, we can always choose how we stand for ourselves and for what is right. Amira's journey showed us that true courage does not lie in fighting back with hate, but in holding on to dignity, self-respect, and the quiet strength to rise above injustice. The greatest power any of us can have is the strength to remain true to who we are, even when the world tries to silence us. And what about you? If life placed you in Amira's shoes, how would you choose to face fear and stand for justice? If this story touched your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts below. What did you feel? What would you tell someone going through a fight of their own? And if you believe in spreading stories of courage and hope, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing more stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you for being here with us and for listening. Stay strong, stay kind, and never stop standing for what is right.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.